Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the All About Favor show. I am your host, Pastor KZ. Today, I'm going to do something just a little bit different. Usually, I give you a midweek word, but I want to give you a midweek thought. How about that? Today's show, since today would be the birthday of my maternal grandmother, I want to dedicate this show to the memory of my grandparents, Manson and ML. I thought about them in part because today, as I said, would have been my grandmother's birthday, and because also it is Black History Month. My grandparents taught me character, which is a foundational thing with our history, is character. They taught me hard work. They taught me about compassion and having a sense of pride. You know, having a sense of pride, carrying myself with respect, giving respect to other people. One of the things that my grandfather especially emphasized is, baby, your word is your bond. And as I was growing up and getting into the dating age range and in early young womanhood, my grandfather used to always say, girl, if a man can't keep his word about little things, he ain't gonna keep his word about the big things. Oh, y'all, I miss that wisdom from my grandparents. My grandparents, on my grandmother's side, ML's side, um, her grandmother, they were born in Libya, North Africa, and her paternal grandparents were born in Ethiopia. So that is where I have the African heritage, and my grandfather didn't his family were Native Americans. They were indigenous people. So I respect cultures, I respect ethnicities. So you might see me wearing African attire, Native American attire. I celebrate my African history, who I am as a Libyan slash Ethiopian. So I just want to shout out my grandparents today. They were such loving, supportive people, and they were providers. And you know something? They always provided stability. And that is missing from a lot of people today, is having a stable home, a stable environment. My grandparents had so much wisdom, and I am so glad they used to tell me, baby, what I'm saying to you today might not mean anything to you, but you keep having birthdays, and some of this stuff is going to come to pass that we're warning you about or we're trying to teach you. My grandparents were teachers. They taught. They taught me how to take care of myself. They taught me how to be self-sufficient. They're like, baby, in life, sometime you're going to get out there and you're going to encounter some hardships. Don't run back home every time things go bad. Stay out there, figure it out, and trust that God will make a way when it seems like there is no way. My grandmother was a praying woman. That my grandmother will sit down some days and she'll say, baby, go get me my word. Now, those of us in community, we know what that means. That's going getting her Bible. And before she opened that Bible, she began to just start singing and just singing on that on whatever song she's singing on. And then she began to just pray in the spirit. And then she would open her word and she would always say, Lord, give me the word that I need to help with this situation. Oh, I learned that from that lady. That woman was a praying woman. I thank God I had a praying grandmother, because my grandmother prayed for me when times I was in danger and didn't even know I was in danger. I remember a particular time in my life. I was up all night, couldn't sleep. I was sitting up in my living room in my recliner chair. And it was about 4 a.m. I didn't realize I had been up all night long. And my grandmother, the phone rang, and I answered the phone. And she called the house phone, and I'm like, not many people have that number. So certain people, you know, when that house phone rings, you know this is a red alert. This is an important person. And I picked up the phone and I said, Hello? And she's like, go to bed. And I say, Mother, how you knew I was up? She said, because I have been praying in the spirit. And the Holy Spirit showed me you sitting up worrying. And she's saying, baby, that thing you sitting up worrying about, if you have prayed about it and put it in the hands of the Most High God, go in there and go to bed and trust that he'll do it. And I say, but Mother, how did you know I was up? And she say, baby, a mother knows her child. And she said, I may not have given birth to you, but I couldn't love you any less. I know you, and I know you're up. And she's saying, that thing you praying about and worrying about, God has already answered your prayer. You just won't accept it. Oh, I thank the Lord. Oh, I thank you, Holy Spirit. My grandmother was dead on it because I was praying for relationship to work out. At the time, I was praying for a marriage to work out. And I'm like, well, Mother, I keep praying and he keep doing this. She said, baby, God already answered that prayer. First of all, you didn't consult him before you married him. And now you got exactly in this mess because you didn't seek the Lord. And baby, it ain't working out because that is not God's will for you. He got something better for you down the road. Oh, I miss that woman. All of my cousins, my siblings, we loved on ML. And ML was a woman who was no nonsense. She was stern. She said what she said. And as the young people say, ML stood on business. Manson stood on business. My grandfather wasn't much on words. He didn't talk a lot, and he wasn't a loud, rah-rah type of man. But he said what he said. And when Manson spoke, people got out of the way because they knew this is a man you don't play with. This is a man who's a quiet man. He's a man with character. But he don't play no games. If Manson said it, you can just bank on. If he say, I'm going to get you, this ain't going to work out, this ain't going to go in your favor, you might not want to lie to me on this. They respected him. I thank God for the stable home they brought me up in. We laughed. They were funny people when they wanted to be. They tell these stories and these jokes, and you just bust out and you start laughing because you're like, ain't no way in the world this happened. And my granddaddy would say, yeah, but it did happen, baby. I know it sounds like it's a joke, but it happened. Just the love, the energy they put in me, you know, they went out of their way to celebrate my accomplishments. It didn't matter if I was in a play at school, if I was going on a trip and they chaperoned, when I was in the band, when I was the drum major. It didn't matter when I was in youth orchestra. They did not miss supporting me and being there for me. I thank God for them, and I miss them so much. They poured love in me, and they made me believe in myself. You know, they encouraged me to be the best I can be. And my grandparents told me, anything, baby, less than an A is unacceptable because you are smart. God made you smart. He made you beautiful, and if you don't succeed in life, it's your fault that you didn't try. So, you know, anything less than putting forth all your effort was not accepted in that household. You know, little things that is missed and lost in today's society. My grandmother taught me how to cook. She taught me how to clean. And she taught me how to set a table. Now, the reason I'm bringing up setting a table, my grandmother, pretty much every day, she would say, set the table. And she used to be, you know, making sure she had dishes. My grandmother had something in her. She did not like paper plates, styrofoam, plastic cups, and stuff like that. She just didn't like it. And I asked her one day, why we got to set the table? My friends, they eat off paper plates, or they eat off styrofoam plates and cups. She said, that's never going to happen in this house. And I'm like, but why? She said, baby, you got to remember, your ancestors and my grandparents came from a place where they was sitting and living in a nice, beautiful home, and they had beautiful china and flatware. And then they had to leave all that behind because they were kidnapped and brought to a place they didn't know about. And they were forced to eat off of tin plates, things like that, plastic cups, throwaway dishes and stuff. And see, when you in Africa, like we have to go, we'll say, get me a to go box or something. Over in Africa, they call it takeaway. Takeaway. You want to take away? And so my grandmother said, using tin plates and paper goods and that, unless it's an outdoor picnic or something, she would say, that just reminds me of slavery. It reminds me of being poor. And she says, I don't want you to ever grow up with that mindset. And she said, and I always used to tell myself as a girl, she said, I would say, you know what? My husband, when I get married, and my children, they're going to know what it's like to eat off of plates, have china, have nice glassware and flatware. She said, and that stuck with me. Now, mind you, my grandparents got married when my grandmother was 14 years old and my grandfather was 19. And they got married in like 1937, something like that. So they bought a house, and the land that they purchased the home on, about 10, 20 acres of land, it was like $700. Now, back in those days, that was a lot of money. But those are the things they taught me. So even now, I notice when I eat, I just want it on a plate. I want to drink out of a glass. I don't know. It's just something about that stuck with me from my grandmother. And my grandparents always used to teach me, you don't need validation from anybody. You don't have to ever lower yourself to fit in with anybody. You've got to love yourself, girl. So when I hear people saying, especially women, and I gleaned this from an artist, one of my favorite artists, Mary J. Blige, when she said no one ever told her she was beautiful. She never felt pretty. No one ever poured into her. She never felt love. So now that she's older and got in the entertainment business, that's why she works so hard on her appearance, her outward appearance. I don't care how much stuff you put on the outside and your clothes you got on designer from head to toe. Inside, she was still broken and messed up. She didn't really feel pretty, but the other people out there, all of these fans she got loving on her, and she still didn't feel that love for herself. And she said all of the love she was seeking, it never came to her until she was in her 50s because she didn't love herself. She didn't know she was beautiful, so she had to keep telling herself, good morning, gorgeous. Good morning, you're beautiful. I thank God I don't have that story. My grandmother poured into me as a little girl. She always would tell me, you such a pretty little brown thing. You are a smart girl. And when something is told to you consistently every day, and my grandfather always just tell me, girl, you a pretty little thing. You so smart. One day you could be a doctor, you could be a lawyer. Hell, you could be the president one day. That's what they poured into me. And I grew up, when I hear that every single day, you begin to believe those things. So I thank God they taught me love comes from yourself first, because you're not going to know how to love other people and be whole if you don't give it to yourself. Giving love to other people and trying to buy love and trying to fit in, and something is empty and there's a void in you. You need to get that inside. So every day, my grandmother would tell me, you go in there and look in that mirror and you speak over yourself. You speak life into yourself. You speak healing. You speak deliverance. You speak that you're going to be successful. Speak you're the head and not the tail, above and above only. Those things were taught to me, and today, on what would have been my grandmother's, I think she would have been like 101. She's been gone since 2006. My grandfather has been gone since 1993. Man, son, and ML, thank you. Y'all did a good job. And the good part is, y'all, I got a chance to tell them this before they left this side. They knew how much I loved them. I showed them how much I appreciated them. My grandmother and grandfather, they had 9 children, 6 of which that, lived. 3 passed on young. 2, my grandmother had a set of twins and a 7-year-old. And then I said to my grandmother one day, I said, you have now lost a child in pretty much every age range. Then she lost her daughter, a daughter, my aunt, a son. And I said, how do you do it? And after my grandfather, after we left the repast, I watched my grandmother sit. And I said, you all right, mother? And she said, I'm all right. I'm going to be all right. And she said, me and Manson had some ups and downs, but we had more ups than downs. We had some hard days, but we also had a whole lot of good days. And she said, baby, I'm just sitting here reflecting on. We raised our children. We kept them together. And she's saying, you know what is beautiful? All of my children came from my husband. And all of my husband's children came from me. And she said, I thank God for that. She said, baby, the key to our being married, 58 years until the Lord called him home. And we laid him to rest today. She said, you know what? Is respect. We respected each other. We gave each other space. But more than that, we liked each other. I said, you liked each other? She said, yeah. A lot of people jump to the word love, but you got to fall in like with a person. And we were friends, we were buddies. And she said, and there were several stages in our marriage. She said, you got the honeymoon stage, you got the little rocky road stage, and then when I start having children stage. She said, but the one thing we vowed to do together was we were going to keep our children in one home. We was going to raise them in a Christian home when they needed discipline, but the rule was your granddaddy could never discipline the girls. And she said, I just want that for you. One day you will marry the right man and God will put the right one in your path. And she said, but baby, you don't have to settle for junk. You don't have to settle for a man who's broke, busted, and disgusted. You don't have to settle for a man who is not going to provide for you and protect you or respect you. Baby, don't ever let a man call you out your name and curse you. She said, that's one thing. My husband of 58 years, your granddaddy, he never called me names. He never cursed me. She said, because we made that rule from day one. And she said, and we never crossed that line. She said, there have been times when I didn't like him and he didn't like me. But you know what? We came together because we got these children in here to raise. And we going to raise them together. Because he made it clear to me, it's no other man is going to be over my children, especially my girls. So my grandmother poured principles in me. My grandfather, he gave me so much wisdom because I spent a lot of time with him as well. And he would tell me these stories and give me these illustrations, and I thank him for it. And one thing I share with some people, my grandfather is the one that taught me how to count. When I tell people my grandparents were teachers, I don't mean in the education system and having a curriculum. We had a curriculum in the house, and it was a math curriculum. It was a book report curriculum when they bought me my first set of encyclopedias. And y'all, back then, they paid $2 a week for those encyclopedias. And at first, they bought one, then they bought two, and then they end up buying the rest of the set. So my grandmother say, don't ask no questions. Now, you got encyclopedias in there. Get in there and get to reading them. And at the end of every week, y'all, I had to give stand up and give a book report. My grandfather taught me how to count. You know how he did that? He used to have mayonnaise jars, them old blue plate mayonnaise big jars, and he'd put change in them all. So the lesson was every Sunday after church, we'd sit down on the porch, and he'll say, go, it's time for your counting lesson. And I'll go get those mayonnaise jars. He said, pour them all out, mix them up. And he'll say, now how many tens make 100? How many this? That's how he taught me. And so I was always at the top of the class in school because I was learning at home. One funny story I have to share with you is I always wanted to ride a bicycle. And my aunt, I'm shouting out you, Auntie. I'm shouting you out, Aline, today. I got the bicycle, and it had the training wheels on them. My aunt taught me how to ride a bicycle. My grandparents bought the bicycle that I wanted so bad. Got it home, and I'm like, oh heck, I don't know how to ride it. I just wanted it because I seen it in the Sears and Roebuck catalog, and they made a way for me to have it. And my Aunt Aline taught me how to ride the bicycle. Every day she would get out there. What I didn't realize, I'm like, why the bicycle rocking? It got the training wheels on it. I supposed to be able to go. I didn't know Auntie had done lifted up one of the training wheels. She said, oh, just ride, just keep going, keep paddling. And then kept doing it, fall down, fall down. This went on for about a week and a half. Then I realized she done lifted up both training wheels, and the next thing you know, I'm riding, I'm going, and I'm relying, thinking that the training wheels was helping me. And my aunt told me, she say, I've been lifted them training wheels up. And my grandmother say, I'm glad she did that, Nikita, because you know what? Now you will understand some things that you are depending on to give you a hand, you can do without them. And she said, see, you was riding the bicycle a whole week and didn't even know that you was riding it on your own. So those little lessons, those little things, I never forget. My Uncle Charles, oh man, Unc, I thank you. I thank you. Unc taught me some things. Unc taught me how to drive a big truck, forward stick shift. He taught me how to back up, turn around, and drive a 12-foot trailer. It's things I was taught by my aunts and my uncles that it come from my grandparents teaching them. And one thing, the 6 children that they had, which was Earl, Pearlie Mae, Claretha, Charles, Lenora, Bobby Lee, Aline, Eddie Lee, Freddie Lee. I named them all, I think. All of my aunts and uncles. Y'all, they all were instrumental in my life. I thank God that I didn't come from a broken parenthood. I had 2 parents. They just were my grandparents, and I thank God for them. And one day I'll talk about my parents also, because I love them as well. But you know what? As what my stepfather said to me, Daniel Rentz, he said, the best thing that happened to you, baby, was Mr. Alvin and Miss Emel raised you. Thank you so much, man, son. Thank you, Emel. I celebrate you during this Black History moment. Thank y'all so much for watching. All of my cousins out there, aunts and uncles, my siblings out there, I thank God for you. We had a legacy in our family. And one thing I was always taught, I don't want to hear you ever say you had a generational dysfunction and a generational curse, because we tried to make sure that didn't happen. And I thank God that I can't say I'm a victim of being brutalized any kind of way. I was just covered, and I thank God for it. Y'all see Mittens back here? Everybody say hey to Mittens. Thank y'all so much for watching. Be well, be blessed, get focused, find your balance, and prioritize your peace and your self-care. Self-care is the best care. Don't forget, hit the thumbs up button. I know you're going to hit the thumbs up because you like Mittens, huh? You seen my little baby. Share the video with other people. Comment at the end of the video. Send me some emails. Follow me. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bells on all platforms. Thank you again. And the t-shirt I'm wearing, I got some icons. Madam C.J. Walker, Dr. King. I got, who else? W.E.B. Du Bois. Madam C.J. Walker. I have some icons on here. Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Marcus Garvey. Y'all be blessed. I will see you back on tomorrow.